Welcome and congratulations on completing the assessment process. You are now ready to receive your feedback results. We want you to think of the feedback you are about to receive as a gift. We have all received gifts that are perfect for us. They are the right color, style, and size, and we have all received gifts that do not fit us perfectly or meet our specific tastes. But in almost all cases, we know that the giver of those gifts had good intentions. As you receive your gift of feedback, we urge you to assume positive motives. Our goal for this briefing is to share some information that will be helpful as you review your personal feedback report. While reviewing your feedback, you will likely experience a wide range of emotions: pride, surprise, confusion, and even anger. This is especially true if you have never received feedback of this kind before. If you find that you experience such strong emotions, know that you are not alone. Also know that with a bit of time, you will gain a more relaxed perspective. In our experience delivering anonymous multi-rater feedback to thousands of people over the years, we have found that most people experience a common emotional reaction that we call SARA. You might first be surprised and shocked at the feedback you receive. You may become angry or experience heightened anxiety. Then it is quite normal to reject some or all of the feedback or feel a need to rationalize it. Finally comes acceptance. Your challenge will be to find acceptance as quickly as you can. This may take minutes, hours, days, or even weeks. If you find that you are having difficulty processing your results, we encourage you to reach out to a trusted colleague or friend and share your concerns with them. Sharing your feedback with another person can be enlightening and comforting. We want to share a few other things that might also help. First, as you review your feedback, remove distractions and give yourself time to process the information. Have an open mind and remember that people have invested time and energy to help you understand how they see you. Assume that their intentions are genuine and that they have a desire to be helpful. Value your feedback. Receiving feedback of this kind is a powerful learning experience during which it is not about being perfect, but about your potential to become extraordinary. Watch your natural tendency to focus only on the lower scores or negative comments. Remember that all extraordinary performers have weaknesses. Unless you have a fatal flaw, you will want to focus on your strengths. That is the best path to extraordinary. Avoid the fruitless exercise of trying to figure out who said what, or try to confront those who might not see you the way you see yourself. By respecting the anonymity of your raters, you are far more likely to receive feedback in the future that will support your ongoing efforts. Using a sample report, we are going to review each section of the feedback report. Our goal is to help you receive the most benefit from your results. We will review each section in the order that it appears in the report. Section 1 of your report shares information about the extraordinary performer model on which you were assessed. The next section reminds you of the best practices for preparing to receive your feedback that we just covered. Section 3 outlines how the rater feedback that was received is reported. If you did not receive enough responses for a rater group to report independently, the feedback collected for that rater group will roll into another rater category. It will be important to review this section to understand how your specific feedback is reported. Section 4 lists the names of the raters invited to respond and the rater group to which they were assigned. This is a list of all raters who were invited, regardless of whether they submitted feedback. Section 5 explains how your results are calculated and displayed. The total score refers to the average scores of all rater groups, excluding your self-scores. Total scores do not include don't know, not applicable, or any missing responses. Section 5 also explains the norms against which your scores are compared. The triangle symbol indicates the location of the 90th percentile on the numerical scale. The square symbol indicates the location of the 75th percentile on the numerical scale. You will see these markers throughout your report. Why the high benchmark? Our research tells us that extraordinary performers make a significantly better impact on organizational results than average performers. This distinction between average and extraordinary performance is key to your development journey. To help further explain the purpose for this benchmarking, let's look at an example. This graph shows an individual's scores, which are the blue bars, compared to the average scores of global individual contributors, which is the line graph. It may appear that this individual is performing well. In fact, this person is performing above average in a couple of areas. Yet, on closer inspection, a different picture emerges. Here we see the same results, but this time, this person's results are being compared to the 90th percentile, which is the mark of extraordinary performance. Measuring against a high benchmark gives you a clear picture of your strengths and weaknesses as compared to the top individual contributors in the world. While it may be discouraging to see your results fall below the benchmark, remember that this is not a pass-fail test. Your report will provide you with valuable information to help guide you on your journey to extraordinary. Also in Section 5, there is a color key for the total score bar, which will also give you an indication of how you are performing as compared to the percentile norm scale. Each total score bar will be colored based on the distance between your score and the 90th percentile marker, the mark of extraordinary performance. The meaning of each bar color is explained for you in this section. It is important to call out that these colors will apply to the total score bars. Section 6 of the report shows your results for overall effectiveness. This score is the average of your scores on all the behaviors on the assessment and gives you an overall picture of your effectiveness. Research tells us that the higher this overall score, the greater your impact on team and organizational metrics. This section also displays the overall scores for each of your rater groups. Section 7 displays your total scores for the performance tent in relation to the percentile norms. The differentiating competencies are clustered into 5 areas which we represent using the metaphor of a traditional tent, with a center pole, character, and 4 corner poles holding up the expanse of the canvas. The total score for each tent pole is the average of your scores for all differentiating competencies included within that tent pole. The amount of space inside the tent is symbolic of an individual's effectiveness. As a note, it is rare to have an entire tent pole score at or above the 90th percentile. In Section 8, the color key for the total score bar is repeated so that you can easily see the meaning of each score bar. This section will display your current profound strengths, which will be noted by green total score bars. A profound strength is a competency with a total score that falls at or above the 90th percentile on the norm scale. When those you work with think of you, it is likely your profound strengths that are first to come to mind. This section also shows your promising profound strengths, which are noted in light blue. These are competencies where your total score is at or above the 75th percentile norm. These represent strong candidates for development. This section also calls out potential fatal flaws, shown with a yellow total score bar. This indicates that your total score for this competency warrants further review to determine if it is a true fatal flaw. A yellow bar on your report is not an indication that you have a fatal flaw. A yellow score bar in this section is only one of 4 specific criteria that indicates a true fatal flaw exists. Before deciding that a competency is a fatal flaw, it will be important to apply other criteria found later in the report. I will point out this criteria as we move through the report. It is important to call out how these competencies are ranked in this section. The differentiating competencies are ranked using 2 sorts. First, the competencies are ranked from highest to lowest based on how your total score compares to the percentile norms. Then, within those percentile ranges, as represented by your total score bar colors, the competencies are then sorted by your total score. Those competencies at the top of the list are the competencies on which you scored most favorably as compared to the percentile norms. To help explain this sorting, let's look at two competencies on this report sample. Let's look first at the competency inspires others to high performance. In this example, this person scored a 4.59 on this competency, giving it a green total score bar, which notes this competency as a profound strength. This person also scored a 4.62 on the competency technical and professional acumen. Yet, technical and professional acumen, the higher scored competency, is lower in the rankings with a light blue bar. Why might this be? The 90th percentile norm is lower on the numerical scale for the competency inspires others to high performance than it is for the competency technical and professional acumen. This results in the 4.59 score for inspires others to high performance being ranked higher on the list because its score is closer to the 90th percentile norm. Section 9 expands on your strengths. This section shows the top 10 behaviors on which your raters gave you the highest scores. Section 10, Strengths, displays the verbatim comments entered by you and your raters in response to the question, what are the skills and abilities you consider to be strengths for this person? This section offers you detailed insight into your unique strengths. The next section, Section 11, reports your importance ratings and personal passions. In the assessment, you and your raters were asked to select 4 competencies that, given your current role and the organization's needs, are most important for your success. The total number of votes each competency received determined its importance rating. The highest number of votes is at the top and the lowest at the bottom of the importance ratings column, which is highlighted here for you in red. If there is a tie among competencies, the competencies are listed in the order they appear in the Extraordinary Performer model. The column on the left indicates the competencies that you selected that best represent the aspects of work you enjoy most. We have labeled these as your personal passions. In the center column, the differentiating competencies are ranked highest to lowest based on their importance ratings. If you have a competency with a yellow score bar near the top of this list, this is a second indication that the competency may be a true fatal flaw. In summary, Section 11 offers an insightful comparison of your competence, passions, and your organization's needs. Section 12 of the report focuses on organizational needs. This offers additional insight into the specific needs of the organization. You and your raters were asked the question, what skills and abilities, if done exceptionally well by this person, would have the most significant impact on this person's productivity and effectiveness in their current role? These are the verbatim comments received. Use this information to corroborate the importance ratings in the previous section. Section 13, Lowest Scored Behaviors, lists the 10 behaviors on which you scored the lowest by your raters. If several of the behaviors on this list measure a competency that has been flagged as a potential fatal flaw, this would be a third indication that the flagged competency may be a true fatal flaw. Section 14, Potential Fatal Flaws, displays the verbatim responses received from you and your raters on the question, is there anything this person does that might be considered a fatal flaw or critical weakness? While it might be tempting to focus on this section, it is important to remember that minor weaknesses described here are not important to your overall development. If, however, The written comments of your raters in this section point to a competency that has been identified as a potential fatal flaw, is included among the most important competencies in the importance rating section, and the behaviors for that competency are included among your lowest scored behaviors, then that competency is likely a true fatal flaw. Weaknesses that may be noted in this section that do not meet these criteria are most likely not fatal flaws. Section 15, the gap analysis, displays the meaningful gaps between you and your rater's scores. We all have difficulty accurately judging our own performance. One value of multi-rater feedback is that it allows us to compare how we see ourselves with how others see us. In this section, a meaningful positive gap indicates that you scored yourself lower than your raters scored you on that competency, and that the gap between those two scores is statistically meaningful. These are strengths that others see in you that you may not see in yourself. A meaningful negative gap is the opposite. You scored yourself higher than your raters scored you. These are areas where you may have a blind spot in how you see your performance within that competency. The last section of your report is the largest section of the report. It contains the detail for the results printed in the other sections. This information is presented to you in the order of the Extraordinary Performer Competency Model. In this section, the column on the far right displays the response frequency of your raters. This is a detailed breakdown of how the behaviors were scored by each rater group. The response frequency at the item level is the number of raters who selected a specific numerical score when rating that behavior. The response frequency at the competency level is the percentage of raters who selected a specific response on the rating scale across all the competency behaviors. Using the example on the screen and looking at the manager ratings, we see that the manager, who is one person, scored this person a score of 5 on 2 of the behaviors and a 3 on 1 of the behaviors. At the total level, the response frequency shows that 33% of the manager's scores were a 3 and 67% of the manager's scores were a 5. You will find this section useful if you wish to drill down on the specific feedback provided in other sections of your report. This concludes our detailed review of the feedback report. If at any point you have questions about your feedback or your development plan, we encourage you to reach out to Zenger-Folkman directly by sending an email to the address on the screen. We will respond to you within 24 hours. In closing, we congratulate you on seeking feedback to improve your performance. We wish you much success as you continue your development journey.